Hello guys, welcome back for part 2 of my science video. I hope you enjoyed my first one. It was really fun to do it outside. But now I'm back inside and we're ready for part 2 about food chains. So please follow along with me in your packet. I'm going to be on pages 103 first and then we'll go to 106. So let's take a look at 103. So just as a reminder, a food chain is a diagram that shows the path of energy from one organism to another organism in an environment. And the arrows represent the flow of energy or the organism getting the energy in the food chain. So this was just like my first video, outdoor edition. Remember, the sun starts all food chains. It gives the energy to a plant, and then that plant uses the energy from the sun to make the food. And then after the plant in a food chain, no matter what environment you're in, it's going to be an animal that will get energy from that plant. And then the last animal that you will find in a food chain, it's basically an animal getting energy from another animal. So this is just a recap of what Ms. Tran talked about at my first video. Again, I hope you enjoyed it. Now let's go on to page 106. 106. So remember that an environment is made up of living and non-living things. Living things depend on their environment and each other to meet their needs. Look at the environment below. Circle 3 living things that depend on the sun to make its own food. So what that means is when you see make its own food, that equals to a plant. All right, so let's take a look at our picture. Let's find 3 plants that can use the energy of the sun to make its own food. Well, I see this plant right here. That's a plant. Trees are plants, by the way. These bushes over here, that little bush over there, these are plants as well. And even though this is in the pond, these lily pads, those are plants. So I hope you're labeling this with me on page 106. So now we're going to go on to our next labeling section. Okay, create a food chain diagram using the organisms in the pond environment shown. Draw arrows in the food chain showing the path of energy. Label these 4 parts of your diagram. So I need to draw a diagram, a food chain diagram that has the sun, a plant, an animal that gets an energy from a plant, and then an animal that gets their energy from another animal. So I'm going to start off as always. What's the first thing in the food chain? The sun. So I'm going to take this, Mr. Sun. Okay. I'm going to label the sun. Check. What do I draw next? An arrow facing away from the sun. That's energy. And I'm going to pick a plant from this pond environment. I'm going to pick that lily pad. That lily pad in the pond looks easy to draw. It's just 2 ovals. Okay. Check. And that is a plant. Next on my list, an animal that gets energy from the plant. So I need to think, after I draw my arrow, what animal from the pond would get its energy from a lily pad? what animal would consume it? You know what? Some fish, they do eat plants from water environments, like a pond. So I'm going to say a fish. Or even a turtle. Let's do a fish. I can draw a fish. They don't have a brown, but I'm going to draw it. A pink fish. Pink fish. Okay, so I've got an animal that would get its energy from a plant. And then I need to think about an animal that would get their energy from the fish. There's a lot of predators in this picture, and I'm going to try to draw one of them. What would eat a fish? A fox would do. That's the best one of this pond environment. So here I go. I'm just going to draw the fox head. What does the fox say? Ding, 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 ding. Where's the... Okay, looks like a triangle. It's okay. Ding, 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 ding. What does the fox say? It looks like a kangaroo. But it's okay. It's a fox. Forgive me. Miss Tran doesn't draw well on computers. Fox. So, boys and girls, we have a food chain. It starts off with Mr. Sun that gives energy to a plant because the plant makes food from the energy. The plant gives energy to the fish. The fish gives energy to the fox. And animals that are usually at the end of the food chain, they are called the apex predator, by the way, which means there are not many animals that would consume or get their energy from them. So this is pretty much as high as you can go for a food chain.